Ayubowan, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Sampath Bank, let me warmly welcome you all, our distinguished invitees and our honored guests, to the Wonder Women Initiative of Sampath Bank. We are gathered here today to witness the first step of Sampath Bank's Wonder Women's Initiative, a fireside discussion organized in commemoration of International Women's Day. For decades, the role of women have evolved, and today we stand at a juncture where women have been able to make their mark in all arenas of the modern world. Today we will witness such awe-inspiring, phenomenal personalities sharing their journey of reaching the pinnacle of success. Tonight we sing praise to the amazing women leaders in different corporates and industries through sharing their experiences as an inspiration to the future female leaders of Sri Lanka. To commence this wonderful and insightful night, let me invite Mr. Tharaka Ranwala, Senior Deputy General Manager, Group Marketing, Deposit Mobilization and Digitalization of Sampath Bank, to welcome our honored guest and introduce the concept of Wonder Woman Initiative. As the ambitious strength behind the success of this whole project, he has been the leader in driving the whole team towards success in celebration of all the wonderful women. Mr. Ranwala, over to you.
Thanks, Sampath. Distinguished panel members, distinguished invitees, the Board of Directors and Managing Director of Sampath Bank, my dear colleagues, members of the media, good evening and Aibuan. When I came here, I suddenly realized that I'm actually the odd man out because I might be the only male that you're going to listen to today. At the same time, I also realized when I generally don't get the chance of women listening to me, today at least I will get the chance of you focusing on me because you're going to listen to a lot of women afterwards. So I guess it's an honor in that context as well. It's my honor to be here to welcome you all. And like Samudita mentioned, just to give you an anecdote of why we wanted to do something like this. So let me first start by welcoming our distinguished panel who gracefully accepted our invitation. Mrs. Dara Vijayatilaka, Attorney at Law, former Ministry Secretary and former Director and Deputy Chairperson of Sampath Bank. Ms. Sandra D'Souza, Group Chief Customer Officer, Dialogue Asiata PLC, and also the Chairperson of SLASCOM, and very ardent supporter of Sampath Bank. I have a lot of dialogues with her most of the time when she goes to our branches and experience our service. Then, of course, Ms. Shahara De Silva, Managing Director, McLaren's Group. I'm limiting only to most of the designated qualification per se, but they have other qualifications which you all will listen to when they come here. And then Ms. Bhavna Dadlani Jawadana, General Manager, Uber. And of course, our moderator, Ashinsani Veerasinghe, who is a leadership coach and a freelance journalist. We call her Ashi. So let me very warmly welcome all of you, because all of you, at a very short notice, accepted our invitation, and you have been very graceful enough to be here today. Thank you very much for that. Then, of course, we have here Sampath Bank customers and some distinguished invitees. As you are all aware, we had to limit this to a very limited number given the current context of the pandemic and to keep all of us safe. So we invited only a very limited number of customers and distinguished invitees of the bank. And I'm extremely happy to welcome all of you. And thank you very much for being here on a Monday and being here on time. Then I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our colleagues and members of the media, both electronic as well as print, who has come here and who are here to witness and take this message out into the general public. And then last but not least, a very warm welcome to our board of directors who actually inspired us to do something like this, which I would cover when I start talking about the objective. And then our managing director and my colleagues in the management of Sampath Bank who are here today. Thank you very much for being here. And on behalf of the board of directors and the managing director of the bank, let me very cordially welcome all of you to this one-of-a-kind event. And why do I say one-of-a-kind event? All of you here today knows that what Sampath Bank stands for, both in the business field as well as in our delivery to the society. Starting from restoration of tanks to looking after the livelihood of people who both bank with us and don't bank with us or unbanked, we have created a lot of ripples in the market in terms of what we do. And this initiative is second to none of those. Why? In this society that we live in, we find a lot of women who do exemplary things and take the bull by its horns in whatever they do. But whatever they do, both in their corporate worlds or in their entrepreneurial world or in their personal lives, most of the time, those are unheard of and go unrecognized. Sampath Bank, in its own initiative, we decided that we should give a voice and recognize the contribution that women make for the society, both in the corporate world and in their personal lives. That is why we decided to have this fireside chat. And we also decided that we would live stream it using all Sampath Bank social media platforms. And what you are going to witness in a little while will be live streamed on Facebook and on Twitter, on LinkedIn of Sampath Bank, so that we take this message of what we believe in as a bank to the society. And what do we want to achieve out of that? We want to inspire young, up and coming, and maybe not so young women out there to learn out of the stories of these amazing women and take a cue out of it and start doing what they are doing better. Go that extra yard. Make sure that they stand on their feet and make sure that they achieve their dreams. This was the simple objective that Sampath Bank wanted to do with the Wonder Woman initiative. So, with that said, without taking much time, once again, very warmly, let me welcome all of you and leave this podium with a simple thought that you will listen to some amazing stories from 4 amazing women in a little while. And what we would want you to do, and even our listeners out there, is to take those learnings, take it into your heart, and make a difference in the society. And if you do that, I think this exercise of Sampath Bank would have been a tremendous success. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anwala. As he correctly said, Serena Williams said that every woman's success should be an inspiration to one another. And that is exactly what we are going to do here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let me now commence the much-awaited fireside discussion. And I would like to invite the panelists for today's discussion. The first panelist, of course, this lady is quite close to Sampath hearts, Ms. Dara Vijaythilaka, an attorney at law by profession and a graduate in LLB. She served in the public service for over 40 years. She holds the distinction of being the first woman to be appointed as secretary to a cabinet ministry in Sri Lanka, with her appointment as the secretary to the Ministry of Justice in 1994. During her career in the public service, she has also functioned as the secretary of the Ministry of Plan Implementation and of the Ministry of Technology and Research. She has served as a member of the Law Commission of Sri Lanka and provided leadership to reform the laws relating to the protection of women and children. In the private sector, she has served as a non-executive director of Sampath Bank and also as the deputy chairperson, and was the first woman to hold the post of CEO of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and is currently actively involved in promoting mediation as a director of the CCC ICLP International Center. Ms. Dara Vijaythilaka, this invitation is for you. another phenomenal women leader, Ms. Sandra De Souza. She is the Group Chief Customer Officer of Dialogue Asiata, the chairperson of Digital Customer Experience Expert Working Group for Dialogue Asiata, and the director of Dialogue Business Services. She is the founding member of SLASCOM, the National IT Chamber in Sri Lanka, as well as its first female chairperson. Her experience spans over 30 years in the ICT industry and has received multiple global awards for her thought leadership and the contribution in the sphere of customer experience management and women in leadership. She's a fellow of BCS, the Chartered Institute of IT, and holds an executive master's in business administration from University of West London. A keynote speaker, a presenter, and a juror who has spoken at over 270 global events, and she is a visiting lecturer at the University of Colombo School of Computing since 2009. Let me invite Ms. Sandra De Souza on stage as our second panelist. Next, we have another trailblazing lady, Ms. Shehara De Silva. She is one of the youngest female game changers in the shipping and maritime industry in Sri Lanka. She's creating waves in local and global markets as she drives the future vision of the McLaren's Group as the Group Managing Director. She has been instrumental in creating a powerhouse and successfully positioned the McLaren's Group as a leading diversified conglomerate. In 2014, Ms. Shehara formed Women's International Shipping and Trading Association in Sri Lanka and was appointed as the founding president. Creating history in the shipping industry in Sri Lanka, Ms. Shehara was appointed as the first female chairman of CASA at its 55th annual general meeting in year 2021. Ms. Shehara De Silva, this invitation is for you to take your place on stage. Our final panelist for the day is Ms. Bhavna Dadlani Jayawardena. She has been the lead of Uber Eats Sri Lanka since July 2018 and is currently the general manager of Uber Sri Lanka. After growing up and schooling in Colombo, Bhavna moved to abroad to study at the London School of Economics. With a background in accounting and economics, Bhavna is a qualified chartered accountant, worked in risk and data advisory, as well as hospitality in both UK and Sri Lanka prior to joining Uber Eats. Ms. Bhavna has played a pivotal role in launching the globally renowned food delivery app, Uber Eats in Sri Lanka. Through and through and hands-on selection process, she has assembled a diverse, talented, and high-performing team that achieves business excellence. Evidently, Uber Eats was able to hit a milestone of 10 million order completions within its first 2 years of operation. To date, Uber Eats has expanded its operation to 5 key cities, and she has also helped drive various initiatives to aid vulnerable communities during difficult times. Ms. Bhavna, this invitation is for you. And last but not the least, let me now invite Ashinsini Veerasinghe, our moderator, to conduct the forum with these amazing and trailblazing ladies who will share their success stories and celebrate their victories with us tonight. Ashinsini, over to you.
A very good evening to all of you. You know, this is Sri Lanka. Usually when somebody says good evening, you're used to just shut your mouth and be like, okay, what is she going to say next? Yeah? Let's break the ice a little. Good evening to everyone. Wow, that's better. I think we can do a little bit more. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's great. We are here to talk about women, right? Now, I would like to pose a question to the audience at the start itself. Now, how many women out there, right, I see, okay, There's a balance with gender in the audience as well. This is great to see. I mean, great to see men being here to listen to women. How many of you women out there believe that you are a Wonder Woman? A raise of hand, please. Yeah? 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 You believe that you're a Wonder Woman? And I'm sure you are playing leading roles in your perspectives, in your companies, in anything. You must be an entrepreneur, businesswoman. But at the same time, while you're being here, how many of you are also thinking a little bit about your family right now? You know, whether the kid has been picked up after class, whether the maid has come home, whether the dinner is ready for the husband when he comes home. Now, how many of you have that worry a little bit? Yeah? Yeah, I see. So many of you are having that worry. So here we go. This is exactly why we're here today. You know, talk about women, celebrate them for the dual roles that they're playing in their lives. For example, now, how many of you know the theme for the Women's Day 2022? Yes, a gentleman. Wow! This is great. Yes, sir. Break the bias. Yes, that is break the bias. Now, one of the main issue is that assuming, this comes into women where we say, often the assumptions made about women is the biggest issue when it comes to breaking the bias. Now, why do we say that? Especially when it comes to their goals, their ambitions, and especially when it comes to expectations for them to hold around, you know, raising a family and at the same time holding a leadership role. Do you agree? Yeah? Because no matter how much the world has evolved throughout the years, throughout the decades, you know, you say by now you see women in leadership, women as CEOs, women in the entrepreneurship, leading everywhere. But at the same time, we are still expected to do the tasks at the households. Yeah? We're not saying we don't want to do that, come on, but we're saying, you know, some justice. Let's talk about. So, especially when it comes to the Women's Day around the corner, it is the time to celebrate all of us women. No matter what role you're playing, no matter what field that is. Yeah? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once again with all the welcomes we had. And it's our privilege to have Taraka, a gentleman, welcoming all of us at a women's forum. So thank you, Taraka, for that warm welcome. And this is the Wonder Women initiative by Sampath Bank. And welcome to the Fireside Chat with 4 influential women to spread awareness and also to inspire the future women who want to aspire in their careers by fulfilling their personal and, you know, family roles as well. Now, in starting the conversation, now the question I pose to the audience, I would like to pose it to the Wonder Women I have. You know, first they should believe they are Wonder Women. So let me start with Bhavna. Do you believe that you are a Wonder Woman? If so, why? Let's break the ice a little.
All right. I think everyone who works hard, I'll start off with a yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think everyone who works hard and perseveres to achieve their life goals while staying true to their values is a Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. Great. Oh, okay. Shehara?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a slightly different perspective. I see myself as a human being.
Not a Wonder Woman?
I wouldn't say Wonder Woman.
Oh,
I would
okay.
say as a human being who's working and living my life to the best of my capability and my ability. That's how I would define myself.
Wow.
So I don't think that we should, there's Wonder Women, there's Wonder Men.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
There's
So
men in the women, yeah?
I see myself as a human being.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing, amazing. Different perspective. Sandra?
Well, the answer is yes, and it is because I often wonder. I've always been wondering. I'm a curious personality. Ever since childhood, I think everything for me was why, right?
Okay.
And that why didn't leave me in childhood. I'm still wondering and questioning everything about life. So yes.
Interesting. Dara?
I'm glad Sampath Bank thinks I'm a Wonder Woman, but I don't think I am.
Are you also wondering?
Not quite. I really would ask for a definition of Wonder Woman. I don't know of any Wonder Woman men either.
Well, that's on the table right now. Moving along, since we're talking about different roles, now all of you have been introduced with the designations that you all run in the perspective companies. Now, let's go a little bit into personal life. Let's talk about the number of hats that you're wearing as a woman. I'll start again with Bhavna.
Sure. I wear a hat as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, a friend, a business leader, and a people manager.
Amazing. Shehara?
First of all, I'm a mother of 2 sons. I'm a daughter. I think that job is harder than my job as managing director of McLaren's Group. I'm also a friend, and also I hold the hat as the chairperson of CASA, which is a shipping agents association in Sri Lanka. I represent on various women's forums, and also part-time race car driver as a hobby.
Yeah, so let me highlight on that. She is known to be introduced as the managing director of McLaren's Group, but she is the first female Formula race car driver in Sri Lanka. Shall we have a good round of applause? Amazing, amazing. So, yeah, that's more power to the panel discussion today, yes. Men out there, watch it, we drive. Sandra?
Yes, so I think all of those multiple roles that both Bhavna and Shehara spoke about, but for me, what is most important really is the part of me being a wife, a mother, and a daughter. And apart from that, everything else as well, from, friends to family and to my corporate life in which I'm business leader.
Yeah, amazing. Dara?
Yeah, so all of those things plus grandmother. Wow. I think that's the most treasured position I hold today, wife, mother. And I can say that I'm not going to repeat all of what you spoke of in the introduction. That's it.
Yeah. I think, grandmother. I think we have different kinds of roles.
But I think that's one that we will all love to get to, when we get to the stage of
Not really,
seeing our grandchildren, right? That's a different, I'm sure it's a beautiful experience, right?
Yeah, because you have pleasure without responsibility.
Interesting. Now with that, let's dig into the main conversation in achieving our objectives today in the Want to Women initiative by Sampath Bank. So let's get into a little bit details about their journey, which, all of you have made up to the top today. So I'll start with Bhavna once again to, the role of women keep changing time to time. And along with the role change, the responsibility also keeps changing. But somehow or the other, you all have made it to the top by now. So let's talk a little bit about the highlights of H1's journey. Bhavna, we'll start with.
Sure. So thinking back to my childhood, I guess starting over there, I grew up with my nose buried in books. I was fortunate to have a family who always supported me with my ambitions, even though that might have been a little bit harder at times, which meant that they unlocked the opportunity for me to go to university. And I feel that was the start of where things really started falling into place in my journey. So I did economics at the London School of Economics. Soon after that, I joined PwC, an accounting firm, where I spent 7 to 8 years after that focusing on risk and data advisory after completing my chartered accounting qualification. I met my now husband at PwC, so I always think about that as a special time. We then decided to move back to Sri Lanka together to be closer to our families over here and I guess just be able to positively contribute to our country. I started my career in Sri Lanka at Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, joined Uber soon after, and I took the role to head on the Uber Eats business in Sri Lanka almost 4 years ago. I was employee number 1. So I spent a couple of months just putting a team together. We launched the business right after. Coincidentally, I was getting married a couple of months after launching the business, an action-packed 6 months. Was very lucky that my husband jumped in to organize the entire wedding along with our families. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride since then. So spent the last couple of years just scaling the business and have hit many milestones from a professional and personal point of view.
Amazing. I mean, that's her journey. Shehara, we would like to hear yours as well.
So when I was in school, I studied economics at the London School of Economics, something in common with Bhavna. My dream was to really join the World Bank and save the world from poverty. Not really join the family business, but eventually I did, and there was no turn. Now it's been 19 years and there's no turning back.
Yeah.
I would break my career into 5 segments, really, into 5-year segments. In the first 5 years, I think I just learned the business. We're a diversified group, about 50 subsidiaries, so in 6 different sectors. So I just worked in every single subsidiary. I worked in our principal's offices in Singapore, Dubai. I traveled, I went on board ships, I went to the depot. I just basically got a flavor for everything. So I think 5 years, but I think the entire senior management team was male, very traditional organization, so I learned. Next 5 years, I felt that I could contribute to structuring the group in terms of bringing structure. So what I did was basically bring in a lot of systems, processes, compliance, IT. I made some key recruitments into HR, brought in some policies, brought a method to the madness because our group was something that had grown organically. My father is a very aggressive business person, so he had sort of built the business over the years, but I felt the back office needed to be strengthened, and that's where I spent my next 5 years in really creating that solid base from which we would grow from.
Yeah.
And the next 5 years, I basically was the toughest 5 years for me because I focused on growing the business. I traveled extensively as required in shipping, acquired new shipping agencies with a team, of course. Who I recruited a young team, a dynamic young team to support me in my thinking, and set up a lot of new businesses, new services in shipping, including bunkering, hull cleaning, areas that we were not in before, using our base of traditional shipping agency, and also other areas of trading and manufacturing. So those 5 years I felt was the toughest because I had to work long hours. And now I think I'm in my next 5-year phase where I'm serving the industry. I have an industry role in the shipping industry, so I'm working more towards working with government, working with the Ports Authority, working with all the board agencies in developing process and dealing with the crises that the country and the world is facing now. So that phase is not over yet, and I look forward to where it will be.
Amazing. So right now you're at the top and you looking forward for the climax and a little more higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Amazing, amazing. Sandra, talking about your journey.
Yes, so I spent a little bit of time, in my first role in Maharajas, purely because, it was friends, family friends, and, I was not really doing too much work. So it was more like, work is a nice thing to do. Okay. A lot of friends, a lot of socializing, a lot of meeting up with people, a little work, by the way. And then I was fascinated by this first company in Sri Lanka, the mobile telephone company, a Celtel, which had an advert out to launch. And I applied for that, and that was like my first serious job, I would say. And when I joined them, it was first, as of course the only female, so way back in 1989, when the network was being first set up and so on. I worked there for like 5.5 years, and then there was Singapore Telecom, which was the second company that was setting up, now called Hutch. So I moved to that company, then to set up customer services, but also because it was in its nascent stage, I also had to do admin work, HR work, do the recruitment, and of course set up customer services. Worked there for about 5 years, and this was also the time that I got married and had my first kid, the only kid, and I felt like I needed a job that was different. So when Dialogue started out 25 years ago now, it was exciting because it was the first mobile phone company, which is GSM, and I decided that I wanted to move. Once I moved to Dialogue, I found a home there. I pretty much felt at home. I didn't mean to spend 25 years there, But for sure, I know I'll live and work and retire at Dialogue because it's pretty much my home. Now, I've grown with the company. When I first joined Dialogue from the then company I was working at, in my first week, my boss, who was also a friend of mine, said, "Have you made the right decision? Because this just doesn't seem right." It was in a nascent stage, and also because of the fact that I joined for a little less than the salary that I was getting then. Okay. So it didn't seem like a move up, it seemed like a move down. But I wanted to because it was an interesting job. And then, of course, I've grown with the company, playing multiple roles. So I also got to be the first C-level in customer services or the experience industry, not just in Sri Lanka, but also in the APAC region, and among a handful across the world, which is a designation called Chief Customer Officer, one that's even now relatively new, but getting very popular around the world. So when SLASCOM started out, which was a software service association, about 13 years ago, I joined them, and Dialogue is a founder member. I was a nominee to SLASCOM. Extremely male-dominant, place. And first, I found some comfort in getting to know the people, and thereafter, of course, again, that was like home to me. It was so interesting, so much going on, so much to learn, and I felt at first I did it because Dialogue wanted me and nominated me as their member, but 3 years down the line, and I spent the next 10 years doing it purely out of passion, about wanting to do something and do whatever it is that I can for the IT BPM industry and to build that up. So so now I function as its chairperson. It's an extremely interesting one. Apart from that volunteering over the 13 years, I also volunteer at Women in Management and also at Women's Chamber for Digital in Sri Lanka. And it's also for the same cause. So it's all about, women, empowerment, women in technology, and women entrepreneurship.
Inspiring, inspiring. Dara, we would like to hear your journey as well.
Yeah, so I have an elder brother, younger brother, 2 younger sisters, grew up with them. Schooling was lovely. I have such pleasant memories of my school, Ladies College. Went on to do law. I actually toyed with the idea of doing architecture, but then my father inspired me. He was a lawyer himself, inspired me to take a look at law, and being a compliant child, I took to law, passed out as a lawyer, joined the Ministry of Justice. Actually, at that time, they were recruiting legal assistants to the Supreme Court judges. They were modeling it on the lines of the law clerks of the US Supreme Court. So I was recruited as one of those legal assistants, but later absorbed into the Ministry of Justice. And either because I was a very boring person or because I was extremely satisfied with the Ministry of Justice, I stuck there for 40 years. So that's how it was, and gender was never an issue. I got my promotions without any challenge, no issues. So that's why I don't consider myself a Wonder Woman, because I think a lot of luck also, and I don't know what it was, but no one ever contested my gender when it came to promotions. So I ended up as the secretary to the ministry. At a very young age, you get to that position. I was not in any service. There are so many services in government. I didn't belong to any of those services. I was just a lawyer in public service. And then, so I was secretary to the Ministry of Justice, loved my work there, and I think we'll talk about what I did there later. A lot of work with women, for women and children. And then went on to the Ministry of Plan Implementation. Retired as the secretary to the Ministry of Technology and Research, by which time Sampath Bank invited me to join their board, and I did. I was wondering at first, what on earth am I doing on a bank board? But then I read up and I realized you need multifaceted disciplines on a board. It adds value. So there I was, and then when I thought I've had enough of full-time work and I will retire and bake cakes or something, I was asked to join the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce as a CEO, and after about 3 or 4 meetings at which these very persuasive men convinced me that I should take it, I said yes, and didn't regret it, had a lovely time there. And I thought I'll do it for 1 year. They said, no, it's a 3-year contract. So I was, I think, there for a little more than that. And now I'm working on a few things like alternative dispute resolution, mediation.
Yeah.
And also I chair the Office for Reparations, which is a new entity that has been set up in the whole dealing with the past and transitional justice regime.
Yeah.
So that's my life.
Interesting. As you can see, these are 4 influential women coming from 4 different industries and 4 areas of expertise, and this is inspiring. So as now we have heard their journeys, as Sri Lankans we always like to hear a little bit of hardships, right? It's like, "Kunu ahanna poddak kemathi." We say that. So because why we're going to talk, let's talk a little bit about the challenges, like the main challenges that all of you have faced, because we need to break this saying, or what people say, taboo, to rather say, okay, she's a woman, she can make it easily. Yeah, I think we all have heard this. Yeah, what is so hard? Okay, even in our industry, in media industry, to any industry, we've heard this here and there. Now, these might be very unconscious statements, but this is exactly why we are here to break the bias. Because the break the bias meaning it can be conscious or unconscious, where people say, she's a woman, she can easily get it done. But no, they have had their, yes, Dara had a different perspective to say she would call it, sometimes she was lucky to get up there, but I'm sure without her knowing it's her own hard work, because people have noticed the hard work for her to get through. So I'll start first of all with Shehara. Now, when you take Shehara, she's one of the youngest female game changers in the shipping and maritime industry in Sri Lanka, and she's the first female chairperson of the Ceylon Association of Shipping Agents in its 55 years of history. And also she is the founder of WISTA Sri Lanka, which is Women International Shipping and Trading Association. And she's also the first female Formula race car driver in Sri Lanka while being the managing director at McLaren's Group. So Shehara, let's talk a little bit about this Kunu. The challenges that you have faced and how you have actually overcome them.
Okay, so I think the challenges I face might be a little bit different from somebody who's climbing the career in an organization. I think I've been also lucky to have the support of some males in my life, both in racing and in corporate and also in the shipping industry.
Yeah.
But that having said, the theme for this year's IWD, which is unconscious bias. I think this has been pretty much the stumbling block which I faced everywhere. And starting from shipping, obviously it's a male-dominated industry with only 3% female representation. So 20 years ago when I joined the industry, I don't think anybody in McLaren's or anybody in the entire industry would have thought that I would be able to fill in, you know, the larger than life shoes of my father and take on the organization and grow it. So it was kind of unconscious bias that was there.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that I would like to share with that is, don't think about it. Don't think about it, you just do your job. And that's what I did. I feel if you focus at the task at hand, you sometimes being female, you have to work a little bit harder. You have to know your stuff a little bit more better, just to be heard, just to be seen as contributing at the table. So I think that's exactly what I did. I learned shipping from my seniors who was running the company at the time, and I was lucky enough to be exposed to great minds of that time, and not to compete with them, but also contribute in the way that I could, which is through finance or through processes or something that I could bring to the table. And later on, I think I learned once I learned shipping, then I was more accepted as when people saw that there was some value being created.
Right.
Likewise, in CASA, I think it's well known. As soon as you enter the CASA boardroom, there's about 20 pictures of the old chairpersons, and it's a very male-dominated, male bastion of the shipping industry. and some of the seniors actually had a big problem that I wouldn't wear sari to most of the, the official events. Yeah. So I feel there was a lot of bias, but at the same time, there were the seniors, some who did support me. Yeah. So I think I would be wrong to say that nobody supported me. Yeah. But it's through showing results, through showing consistency, through advocating for the needs of the association, that eventually I think I've got the support of pretty much everybody now, and they are all on my team because they're all seeing value, and it's a matter of working with everybody as a team. At the racetrack, it's the same thing. I think apart from the obvious physical difficulty of being at the racetrack in the sun, in the heat, with all my competitors are male. The lack of knowledge of the mechanics. I think I felt like as being a woman, I might be a little bit behind that. Yeah. So, but I had to work a little bit harder to learn that, spend a little bit more time, and just concentrate on the task at hand, which is really drive the car. Yeah. So rather than think about you're a female, are you disadvantaged, are you this? So I think really focus on the task at hand and do your job as best as you can. There's no substitute for hard work. Yeah. So that's what I can say.
Interesting. I think I like what you said last, without thinking whether you're a male or a female, just drive the car. Yeah. Yeah, pretty interesting. So coming back to Dara on the same question on challenges. Now, we all know that you're an attorney at law, and you hold the distinction of being the first woman to be appointed as secretary to a cabinet ministry in Sri Lanka, with your appointment as a secretary to the Ministry of Justice in 1994, and you're also the first chairperson of the Office for Reparation from 2019. And also the first woman to hold the post of CEO of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce from 2016 to 2019. Now, these are pretty amazing things to do. Okay, so along the line, I'm sure, just like as much as you assume that you are lucky enough, I'm sure there were so many challenges that you faced. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, so the challenges that I don't forget are not the ones that I faced at work. Okay. Those were there, yes, but very surmountable. But the challenge, so I go to office, I'm secretary to the Ministry of Justice, everybody listens to me, life is good. And then I come home, there's the husband, and there's my daughter, and there's my son, and there's a dog, and no one listens to me. So that's where they couldn't care less whether you were Secretary of Justice or the Prime Minister of the country. I'm the mother, the wife. Yeah. So I just have to integrate myself into the home life. So balancing that was tough because I took my job as mother very seriously. So I wanted to spend enough time with them, provide proper what shall I say, whatever it is that they wanted in terms of emotional support. That was a challenge. And there aren't, I contrast the way I manage those times with what I see my daughter doing. She lives overseas. I went to her house when she was going to have her first baby, and the house is full of books on how to bring up babies. So what the grandmother said amounts to nothing. What the books tell them amounts to everything. So she learned the hard way that we also know a little bit of something. Yeah. But we did not have all that kind of support, not that there were no books available. The only book I knew was Dr. Spock. So that was a big challenge, handling the work-life balance. I never stayed late in office. I learned to work smart and hard, but not long. I didn't have to. So the other challenge that you have is you start working. So having been in the ministry itself, the ministry office, you will work with ministers. Yeah. So over the years, I had worked one-to-one with many, many ministers. The majority, not 100%, majority were lovely, lovely people who valued advice, who listened to public officers, who believed you knew something to tell them. Then you start working with one-to-one as the ministry secretary with the minister. You have to understand that they have a political life as well. So you have to support them in a way to achieve their political objectives. I mean, they are not there to lose the next election by doing something not very popular with the people. So that's where you have to help them balance the interests. So that's a challenge, because you have to help them exist, help them also make sure that there's no compromise between what is good for the people and what is good for him and him alone. So that's a tough one.
Definitely.
So that's where sometimes ministers and public officers clash. The chemistry doesn't blend.
Yeah.
So that's where you get fireworks. And sometimes there were. Sometimes there were. So, but to me that was not important. I mean, those were, if there were fireworks, it's not as if there weren't. There were. There were. Fortunately, the majority, 99.5%, were brilliant, lovely men and women. And it's a bonus. If you have a nice person to work with, nice people around you, that's a huge bonus. So I had a very supportive staff to work with at all times, and also a supportive home front where my family, my husband had this, Obama's "Yes, we can" slogan. He took it and he converted to "Yes, you can." So that was very convenient. But so those are the challenges, and also if I have the time to start. Tell me if I'm going on too long.
We are here to listen to you.
Yeah. So one of the most important things that I did in terms of achievement in the Ministry of Justice is law reform. So 90% of my time was law reform. I had efficient people to handle the housekeeping stuff, like looking after courthouses and stuff like that. So when it came to law reform, and this is something that's very relevant in today's context, I always made sure that there was completely and adequate, exhaustive consultation with stakeholders. So if you are going to have adversaries, if you have opposition to any kind of reform, you get it within at the outset. You handle it at the outset. You don't wait till you present the bill in Parliament, then have people with placards objecting to it. So everything was sorted out. I can remember the time I was doing the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act. I knew there were these chauvinist men in the Magistrates Court of Colombo who would not have approved of it. So I got them into the first discussion and assessed their sensitivities as well before formulating the bill. Then in 1995, we did a lot of reform for the protection of women and children, penal code reforms. Lots of provisions were brought in at that time, and I think that was one of the highlights of my career, when those were able to be enacted in Parliament, because that improved our legal regime hugely, significantly in terms of protection of women and children. One of the other things which doesn't get highlighted very much is, women couldn't pass, Sri Lankan women married to foreigners could not pass their citizenship to their children. They battled, and in 2003, I managed to get that piece of legislation passed, and now women can pass their citizenship to their children, even if married to foreigners.
Wow.
Yeah, so things like that, and even incest was not a criminal offense. There were prohibited degrees of marriage. Incest was made a criminal offense for the first time in 1995. So what I want to highlight here is the strategy that we used, whether it was protection of women and children, or money laundering legislation, or alternative dispute resolution. We had extensive stakeholder consultation. We took every opponent seriously and got them convinced. I can tell you, despite doing all that, when the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act went into Parliament, there was opposition. They didn't pass it the first day. They said, we want another debate. They had another debate, and the minister came and said, I don't think we can get it passed today. So then I think there were some very formidable women in the box, in the officials' box, and we pounced on him. And he went back, and he got it passed because nobody had the guts to oppose it, I think. There were lots of members of Parliament, including one woman who said things that were not very nice. Empowering a woman to go to court to get a protection order against a husband who's abusing you was not acceptable to some. Would you believe it? So still it is so. Even after that act was passed, I went around the country talking to the police to educate them, to sensitize them about the new provisions. Oh, there were so many who thought I was quite crazy, who thought that, you know, women, this is not a good thing, that you're disrupting family life by empowering a woman to enable her to go to court to get a protection order. It was not a case of sending him to prison even. It was not a criminal thing.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, today is Women's Day, that's why I'm talking in detail about it. So there are people who have that mindset, and I think we have a responsibility to change that.
This is amazing. I think if we had more time, we could have gone on and on listening to this, because at one point we all agree, no matter how much we keep talking, we need that law change, that legal, you know, the decision to come in. I think you have been up there, you have changed so many, and you have brought so much of freedom to so many women out there in bringing up all these laws. I think we should give a good round of applause in bringing up all this. Hats off. I think one reason we are here today talking so free about being women, I think you also have that, you are part of it. Thank you so much, Dara, for being here with us. And moving on to talking about the challenges, I would like to move ahead with Sandra.
If there were any challenges at all, I've just forgotten everything. My challenges seem nothing with everything that you've done, Dara. My challenges are the usual little challenges that I've had. I think my first challenge was as an only child growing up, when my parents sent me to boarding school, I had to deal with 100 other children, and you know, that was quite a challenge because no longer was I the center of the universe. I just became 1 out of 100, and that was really tough. Then moving on, of course, when I got to my work life, I was still the same, you know, young one from being an only child, fairly aggressive, you know, very verbose, wanted to be seen, wanted to be heard. And I realized when I got into the workplace that, you know, it's not, again, I'm not the center of the universe, and that, you know, I had to learn to listen to other people, to blend in, which then became fairly easy because I'd already been with 100 others through all walks of life, through different communities, segments of the community, and so that became a really good key strength for me. I would say working through in this last 33 years, starting from my job when I first joined Celtel, my challenge was I joined a team that was doing market development and launching this mobile phone product at the time. So the team that came from overseas were very impressed, very happy with me, and happy to have the only female on the team. Subsequently, the team switched pretty fast to local marketing consultants, to local marketing manager, and all of that. The first thing they wanted was me out. Why? For very silly reasons, if I looked at it. They said I was too young, early 20s, a girl, and this is a very technical product, and I'm not an engineer, and therefore I wouldn't be taken seriously because way back then, mobile phones were, you know, being marketed at 200 or 1,000 rupees. A telephone call was something like, for incoming and as well as outgoing, was like 20-something rupees. And they felt that I wasn't fit to go to a boardroom and that I would be taken seriously. So now it's called stereotyping, as I know it to be. And I was actually moved out of that team into, almost forcefully, into doing something like, oh, you start something new, which is service, right? We need a service support system. Yeah. You start that. So I had two options. Either quit because I didn't get to do what I came to do, or stay and make something of it. I decided to do the latter purely because my dad said, if you like it, if this is interesting, if this is what you want to do, life will always be like this. If you believe in something strongly, stay there and fight, do your best and prove yourself. So after a while, I actually got to doing all of that and more, prove that I was better than the rest, and being a female actually was an advantage as well. Yeah. You build relationships, you're almost sincere. And so that worked out well. And at the point, you know, I decided, of course, to leave and then move on. So I found a lot of challenges along the way. One of the other challenges was I've always found myself being perhaps the only female amidst a group of people. And, you know, as verbose as I am, sometimes you know, I wasn't heard. You know, so I often find that if I presented an idea, you know, and you go around the table, one of my male counterparts would have come up with the same idea, and everyone says, that's a great idea. And then I just make it a point, I learn to make it a point to say, you know, as I was saying before you, and I make it a point, you know, because I just wanted everyone to be conscious of the fact that, you know, I mentioned it before, and that it's important. Somehow it just goes by, you know. So things like that, which I think sometimes even now I find, but I don't allow for it. I make sure that I'm heard and that my voice is heard. And one of the other things that often people talk about is that, oh, we are females and we have to break the glass ceiling and all kinds of things. For myself, yes, I'm sure there is a glass ceiling, but I haven't really found it being such a challenge because I've always worked predominantly in a male-dominated industry and a society, and I've got accustomed to not thinking of myself as different, but one in the same crowd. So as long as you're bringing value to the table, you know, men and women are equal in that sense, and people don't really, after a while, think of you as, oh, she's a female. You know, that doesn't come into their heads at all. And so I would say for females to start focusing on the value they bring, and that is what might be advantageous. And of course, my father-in-law, when I got married, as being an only child, getting married into a family of 5 and a very large family was a challenge to me because my husband's the youngest out of 5. And when I got married, I moved into the family because he was looking after the kids. The other 4 had left home by then, right? And so I had a mother-in-law and a father-in-law, and you know, that was a challenge because I'm usually, you know, I tend to be bossy, so I realized that my mother-in-law is the boss in the house and not me. But then being the relationship person I am, I told myself if I can look after millions of customers, you know, for 30 odd years, I can do this. So I worked really hard on building that relationship out with my mother-in-law, also a very strong character. Admirable character also, and we kind of, you know, had honest conversations about things. And she had her space, I had mine. Mostly I let her be queen of the house, and that was good for me because then I could also focus a lot on my career, because she'd take care of things that I didn't like to do. She liked it, and it worked out so well. So she was great, and because she supported me, I had the support of everybody else in the family. And so I was the most popular of the entire 20-odd people in the whole in-law, outlaw space, because my mother-in-law was on my side, in my camp. Right? So no matter what anyone said, whether it's my father-in-law, my brothers-in-law, any other ladies, my sisters-in-law, or even my husband, I said, Auntie, can you see whatever? And she says, now, stop it all of you or whatever. And even if they were wrong, she'll scold all of them. and I get away. Because for her, in her eyes, because she knew me so well and she knew my thinking, I was always right. Because she knew I had a good rationale for why I thought something. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that was sort of, you know, one of the challenges in my life too. But I'd say pretty much those were it. And one of the messages that I had was that my father-in-law once said, oh, you're comfortable when you're uncomfortable. And he said this because often they'd take holidays like literally every weekend, want to go off somewhere, and I say, no, I have to work. You know, I have work to do, right? Yeah. And I have various things to do. So it's true. I like to challenge myself. I like to always be doing something that gives me butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel good about it because I get uncomfortable. And then I get comfortable after having dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's another challenge that I keep giving myself, this challenge of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's it.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, different perspectives coming into the table. Bhavna, talking about the challenges, especially because let's talk about challenges you face in your work life as well as in your personal life. And when it comes to work life, I think a part that we would like to know is you played a pivotal role in bringing Uber Eats to Sri Lanka and being a lady there. How has it all been, and what are the challenges, and how have you overcome these?
Sure, that's right. So I was employee number 1 at Uber Eats and launched the business soon after.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do feel that my biggest challenge over the years has been in managing myself, often with the skepticisms or the doubts that could come into my mind, potentially with the preconceived notions that all of us have mentioned having faced. But one thing that I realized was there's always help for those who seek it. So in terms of looking for mentors who have more experience, or looking at the right reading material, there were ways to work around it. So with the right amount of awareness, self-reflection, and seeking out those resources, it was a lot easier to overcome it.
Yeah, so talking about the personal life, I would like to touch upon that as well, the challenges that you have faced in the personal life a little bit.
For me, it would have been a lot of figuring out how to juggle work with personal life and thinking through that. So for every stage of my journey, I felt it was quite action-packed, that involved a lot of change. So when dealing with change, which involved a lot of new things coming into play, managing my personal life at the same time was often not easy. I think my first learning over there was balance does not exist. So giving up that idea made it easier to balance my personal life in a way. But I would take it at maybe 3 to 6 month periods and then figure out, okay, so if I was really busy at work for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I'll then switch my focus to spend a little bit more time with my personal networks past that. So that helped me a little bit. I don't think there's a perfect answer over that. But
no, why I asked specifically is that at the start of the journey you said while you were very busy in launching this app, your husband actually took care of the whole wedding and he processed. I think that's where the men actually come into play.
Absolutely.
We should appreciate men being there.
Absolutely. And that was another learning actually. So in being able to rely on personal networks, ultimately it's really difficult, or I found it really difficult to go out and get what I need to get done if I did not have the support of my husbands, my families, etc. So the understanding that we have at home, which I am really proud of, is there's no defined task or role for either of us, but rather based on whoever is busier, we're happy to switch those tasks around.
Amazing. Now, I think with that we have actually laid the foundation of talking about everyone's journey and their challenges and how they've actually overcome it. Now let's talk about a common topic that's being spoken out aloud in any corporate, whether it's public sector, private sector. We all keep highlighting on the fact about work-life balance. Despite being women, or despite being a woman or a man, we keep talking about, you need to have work-life balance. But how many of us have actually achieved the work-life balance? Yeah. So I would like to start with Shehara. I'll start with how important it is to have a work-life balance, and how have you dealt with this?
Well, I'd like to ask you back.
Yeah.
You're asking me about work-life balance because I'm a working mom. But would you ask that from a working dad? Yeah. Would you ask this question, how do you manage work-life balance, from a male leader? No. So I think that's part of the problem to begin with. It's a society issue, it's a cultural issue of how we should raise our children, our sons and our daughters, because the household and child work is disproportionately borne by women. And that is inhibiting career development. So at least for the future generations, this shift in society needs to take place, where it becomes an equal partnership or an equal work-life balance. But personally, if I would share, I'm on the board of more than 50 companies. And also because of CASA, I have to deal with at least 3 or 4 meetings a week with the port or immigration, customs, government authorities, ministry. So every minute of my life is scheduled. So anything I have to do has to be on my calendar, including my children's classes, their homework, their exams, their PTA. So I think being super organized is the first part of work-life balance. I think it's a no-brainer. And delegation is really important. letting go was also hard at one point because, you know, when you run your own business, you want to do everything yourself and you think nobody else can do it. Nobody will love the company as much as you do. But I think over the years I evolved to be able to set up structures even at a group level where I gave up a lot of the tasks and created a group management structure where I have CEOs, all the group CEOs who report into two group level CEOs. And I think we have a very professionally well run business now, so that created a lot of time for me, where I got involved in only the key decisions that needed to be made and not in everything. But that having said and done, you need to have your checks and balances and your ear to the ground on your day-to-day business. And of delegation, and I think the other one is mixing as much as possible, because balance, I think, like Dara said, is not something we have. It's something we're always out of. So even on a daily basis, today you have to decide. If you have a sick child, maybe you will not attend the meeting. Or if you have a really important conference, maybe you won't go to the concert of your child. So you have to decide that on a daily basis. Your work-life balance is something that you do every minute, and you kind of prioritize as you go. And you have to innovate, because, like, for example, like, there are times I've taken the kids for a basketball practice and I'll do my con calls. Or I'll put them to sleep at 8:30 and then I'll do my emails for 1 or 2 hours. So it's something that we have to do the way we can, multitask as women the way we can. And I think we have to co-opt a lot of people, family, friends. It takes a village, as they say. And there's no right or one way to do it.
So if I'm to take a straight answer, do you believe that you have been successful in living a work-life balance? Yes or no question, that is.
I think so. I think I have been able to achieve whatever objectives I have for my children and for myself and for my company. The best I could.
Cool, pretty interesting. Sandra, if I were to ask you, how important do you think work-life balance is, and how successful have you been in achieving this work-life balance?
Let me answer the second question first. My life is in perfect balance in my own way, and that's been completely imbalanced, right? I'm fine with that, because it's the way that it works for me. So for instance, I go to sleep at 2:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock sometimes. But it's fine, I still get my 7-8 hours of sleep. Everybody that works around me knows that I work that way, and that I'm probably a little slow and down and out at 7:30, 8:30, 9 in the morning. But I get active again probably after 10 a.m. really. And then I can do this all the way until in the evening I take some time off, about 7. And then I kind of fit in my emails, kind of routine work back into the nighttime set. And that's my routine. It's what works for me. And with it, I can manage everything else. So I have time for my friends, my family, and anything else I need to do. And for me, that is balance. And I agree with Chehara. For me, I mean, for all of us, after a certain point in time, everything seems super important, super urgent, and has got to be done now and by you. Why? Because you're the mom, you're the boss, you're this, you're that. So there are hats that we wear, multiple hats, and when you take that on, you feel the need to want to give your 110 to everything, right? And it is impossible. So yes, Wonder Woman, you are expected to be a Wonder Woman, or you tell yourself you need to be 110, and that is also another tiny difference I find between males and females. Men are perhaps happy when they've done the 100 or 90. Women just want to do the 110 for everything, that every role they juggle with, right? It's not practical. And you can't start feeling guilty every time you do 80%. 80% is probably good enough for that task for that day, right? And something else requires your 110. And just like you said, Chehara, it may be that someone in the family is sick, and you just have to drop all the other balls and do that first. You can't say, oh, she's sick, I'll attend to it later, because there's no later, right? So in that sense, I prioritize every single day what's super important and urgent, knowing that everything is important and urgent, right? And for me, that's what it is. So work-life balance for me is that way. And I think you just have to be happy being yourself, to know that you have your me time and that you have time for everybody that needs you, and for the work that needs to be to get done during the day and each day. So if you tackle each day, if you plan well enough, then you achieve all of that and more, right? So that's what it is for me. And I never, because it sounds good and it's politically correct, I don't say, oh, work-life balance, yes, I have it. Because this is my way of balancing it, and I think I don't have it at all.
I think that's a pretty interesting way to put it, because I don't think there is any set definition of work-life balance. It depends on you, how you handle it, whether you're a woman or a man. It's just the way you take it, right? As long as you have your attention going into the main areas of your life, I think that is balance for you.
And I also just have to add one thing to it. I cannot do this if I didn't have a supportive husband. He is the absolute best. His mom has trained him so well. God bless her. I am so happy every single day for my mother-in-law, who has trained my husband so fantastically well, because he is just amazing, right? I can always, I know he has my back. I can depend on him, rely on him for everything, which just then, you know, I think that's a huge part of my successful, formula for success. If I had any success in my career and life.
When you say that, I just noticed like some of the gentlemen out there, they were wondering whether our wives will ever say this to us. Having said that, Dara, how would you take the work-life balance, and how have you found balance in your life?
So I agree with them, because what is balance is your choice. What weightage you apply to each item of work that you have to do is your decision. So you're master of that, or sometimes you're not, but you can decide that. And if you want, okay. So in my case, for me, there was no question of putting career before family. So I decide, for me, it came naturally, and now when I think back, it is not something that I had to sit and think about for a long time. So I had children, I had an obligation. It came naturally to me that they came first. So when the, so I struggled a lot with finding good care for them, because I didn't have the grandparents around to look after them. My sister helped a lot to a point, but there comes a time, but they grow up. I remember I refused every overseas trip that I was asked to go on till my daughter was about 5 and a half. And then one day I was asked to go on this. We were sent to study. We had to enact the Human Rights Commission Act that is there today. We were sent on a visit to study the US institutions. And there was a Sinhala Tamil Muslim delegation that was picked, and I was asked to go, and I told the secretary to the minister at that time was a wonderful person, Dr. Justice Amarasinghe. Later on he became a Supreme Court judge. I said, no sir, I can't go. She is still very small. She said, you know, little girls have a habit of growing out of their life. You have to think a little bit that she can manage with the father alone. So just go. I'm not taking no for an answer. So I went. She survived. I think they did very well together, father and daughter. And if I had thought that they didn't, I was proved wrong. So that's what it is. Then Raveen came along, and then I had adjusted my schedule, and at that time I could. I had that space to decide on my meeting schedule, my lunchtime. So we lived very close to Hulstorf, where my office was, so I used to rush home to give him his soup. No one else. I thought no one else can give him his soup. Mother has to give the soup. I was so wrong. I was so stupid. Anyone could have given that soup, but that was my choice. So work life, there's no question of the need for balance, and it's up to you to adjust your life. Your husband may be like hers, or your husband may be not like that. So you have to adjust yourself. If he doesn't do something, you have to do something. And you have to remember that men have a box called the nothing box. This is not my invention, right, you guys? This is not what I'm saying. I have listened to this and I agree with this person. They want that nothing box and they cannot fill that nothing box. So if your husband is one of those, I'm not talking about my husband, by the way. If there is a space and a nothing box inside their heads, and we have a lot of boxes that have to work, and we have to multitask to, and all those tick at the same time, that's what you have to do. So that's work-life balance. I mean, no big deal nowadays when you really look at it.
I know. I think it's more than work-life balance. I think it's coming into a relationship balance with whom, whether it's at work or at family. It's a relationship balance also, and the understanding that goes along. Bhavna, how have you managed the work-life balance and how is it like for you?
So would agree with all the comments over here. I do think that finding that perfect balance is impossible. I don't know if it exists. What I found that really helps me, and it's actually advice that I got from a mentor recently, was draw up a life plan, a 10-year life plan. And just putting those thoughts down on paper helped me clarify in my mind what was important to me from a long-term perspective, which meant that every 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, I would take a look at my life plan and say, am I going in the right direction or have I been neglecting certain areas? So I think that helps you maintain somewhat of a balance, even though not really on a day or a weekly basis.
Okay. So in case you have diverted from your path, okay, I have to tick these boxes the next 6 months, sort of,
It's a little bit easier to catch those misses and turn it back around before hopefully it gets to like 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So, pretty amazing. Now, I think we've gone into detail about their journey, challenges, and how they balance life. Now, here's a tricky question to the 4 eminent panelists I have today. Now, you all have lived all these years of life, spending your work-life balance to, in your form of way. But is there anything in life that you wish you had? Okay, this is the question. Is there anything in your life you wish you had? And if it is so, what is that? I'll start with Sandra.
Well, I think I would have wished that I had more time with my daughter. Because she is also an only child, but at 18, after her A-level, she went away, and now she lives in Australia. She never, she actually didn't come back after uni and all that. So it's been like 8 years or so. I think I missed out a little time with her because I was, I had my mother-in-law. I was good at delegating, and my mother-in-law was doing obviously a really good job. So I would sometimes put that bit of time into my work because I knew she was safe, everything was there. So I think I missed out a bit of time with my daughter growing up, in her days growing up, and I think that would have been one of those things. Time, which really I think I wish I had. And apart from that, just being a human being, I think I can think of 1,000 things I wish I had, and I'm not going to go into the details of that.
Okay, that's pretty emotional as well. Bhavna, is there anything in life that you wish you had in your journey so far?
Tough to say. So through my journey, I have had a lot of support, a lot of really great platforms. But that being said, maybe I wish I had the tools where I did come across that preconceived notion or lack of understanding of what diversity of thought could ultimately bring to a workplace. Just the means of being able to influence or correct that straight away potentially would have led to better performers or better leaders around me. But I have to say that was mostly the exception in my experience.
Oh, okay, interesting. Oh, okay. Dara.
Yeah, that's an easy one for me. I wish that during our time, that there was more facilities for child care, daycare facilities, because we had to just leave the kids with domestic help, and I didn't like that. So I see my daughter now she lives overseas, and they have wonderful daycare centers, and the kids thrive in those if they're really good ones. I wish that we had more facilities, creche facilities, and daycare for kids. That's the only thing.
would have been more help for you, yeah?
It would have been definitely better for my peace of mind, plus also for the kids, I think, because they would have been, I don't know what went on at home.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't turned out to be IRCs, so they couldn't have been, it couldn't have been really bad, but
Yeah,
still you wonder, no? You're
Yeah.
wondering what, I mean, we didn't have CCTV cameras inside the house.
That's right, that's right. Shehara, what is that one thing, or is there anything that you wish you had in your journey?
I tend not to look at life with like I wish I had, because I've kind of come to a state of mind that I'm content with
Yeah, okay.
how things have been. But if I could say one thing, maybe maybe I wish I had a sibling, so that would have taken the pressure off me as an only child,
Running the
a
family business.
and also always under scrutiny to behave and be in a certain way. So I think, yeah, definitely a brother or a sister would have helped.
Aw. All right, now reminder to the audience, we're going to open the question and answer forum soon after this, the very next question. So be ready to project your questions to the eminent women who are right here with me. So moving forward to that one question again, I would like to start with Dara. What is that one unforgettable memory in your life that even now, if you recall, that makes you happy or proud?
That's really tough. I don't have one. I have many, so I can't talk about them
Okay.
all. But if it's not an incident, but if I look at the kinds of things that gave me a lot of happiness, it's when I saw my children, and this truly happened,
Yeah.
standing up against a lot of odds on behalf of others, to fight for what was right for somebody else.
Okay.
That gave me a lot of happiness, actually.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Sandra?
Yeah, for me, I think yeah, I have had immense number of moments,
yeah.
and too many to count. And I also count my blessings every single day. I also try to find joy and happiness in the little things. For instance, right now COVID,
Yeah.
I say, hey, I'm just so happy that I can breathe, because there
Yeah,
are
that's
people
right.
struggling to breathe.
That's right,
So the everyday things give me joy. But if I had to pick just this one thing, looking back now, it would be, I think, the day that my daughter was born. One child, just like me. So she was born on Christmas Day, very special for me.
Okay.
And also my mother-in-law's birthday is also on Christmas Day.
Oh.
So that's double joy, because she was thrilled to have a granddaughter born, on the same day as her birthday. And so I think, yeah, it's the day that my daughter was born. That would be the one single most precious moment in my life, or day in my life.
Oh, sweet. Bhavna?
Tough following those examples.
Yeah, tough, very tough.
Yeah, so many happy moments also. But if I had to pick one, it would be a conversation that I had just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So with a female courier partner who does deliveries on the Uber Eats platform, was telling me about how she had joined the platform last year, soon after her husband had passed away. And she was managing to not just be independent for herself and her kids, but also fund their education in a way that she did not think was possible after she had those challenges. So that to me was a really inspiring moment, and one of the reasons that we want to keep doing what we're doing to unlock more empowerment for the kids.
Yeah, that's inspiring. Shehara?
Not to steal from Sandra, but I think I have to agree for me as well. The day my firstborn, the son, was born was probably the most magical moment of my
The
life.
second one is going to get
Second one, yeah, it was a second time experience. But I mean, you can do so much at work. You can do so much, travel the world. You can see this or that, spend so much money. But that moment where you have this human being that comes out of you
Yeah.
is magical, and you can't replace it with anything. So.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, amazing. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are opening the forum for questions and answers. So, I would like to invite the control panel to bring the FM mics to the forum so that whoever who has a question may raise your hand and we will bring the mic to you.
So, I also like watching audiences look at the audience and everyone's looking at the time and I don't think they all want to go home now. Just about now, everyone's looking.
No, yeah, I've heard this saying about, if the audience, yes, we have a question. If the audience is silent and if they don't have any question, either they have understood all or they haven't understood anything.
So my question is to Shehara. As a member of a family business, did you have, you fight a whole lot of different battles kind of thing. Did you have issues in being accepted? Did people think, oh, you're on the board of 50 companies because you're your father's daughter? Did you have to prove yourself more than others did?
Oh, for sure. I think I didn't start the business by being on the board. I think it took me about 15 years to get onto the board. So when I first joined the business, I was just another employee. I had to work. Obviously, there was a difference, and there was that people knew who I was. But it's a mixture of the push I got being in the family, and also the slow acceptance. It was a very slow progress in the beginning. Like I said, a lot of the seniors who believed they built McLarens, and this little girl walks in, and so there was I think it took about 10 years to gain some acceptance, and then slowly as through results. It's nothing else but through results. When people saw that the group was growing, people saw that good things were happening, that there was direction, there was teamwork, there were new people coming. Even new systems were sometimes not accepted. Performance-related pay was not accepted. They said, we've been doing this for years, why do we need it this way? So there was a lot of questioning, there was a lot of back and forth. But I got support from many, and I think today we have a right mix. We have a right mix of tradition and modern culture, and we're good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Do we have any more questions? Yes.
Scared to ask questions. But I was thinking, we all men are being brought up by our mothers, and we are conscious of this, the biases, the stereotyping, and ill-treating also, right? I'm just wondering, isn't there a specific role that the mothers of today have to play? Because, from where did you learn this, right? I was thinking, if I'm caring, I think that's because it was my mother, right? So, have we missed out anything? Because, in this process, have we missed out something?
I'd like to just answer a little bit of that. I think women also make this huge mistake because of the way our cultures are. So it's a cultural norm that usually the men hold the higher position. I know also of families in which there are boys and daughters and sons, and the daughters have to wash the plate of the son when they finish dinner, and the daughters will help out in household chores, but not the son. He's not expected to do it. And the mother, although I know her really well, she hasn't accepted the fact that that's not how it should be, because for her the one son is more precious than the two daughters or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's the way you also as a mother bring up your children. Do you let your husband and do you share your chores? Does the husband, the father of the children, they watch, right? What goes on in the house? Does he sit and watch TV and have a beer or something after work while the mother has gone to work, come back, doing the children's homework, cooking the dinner, washing up and everything else, right? Is that what they see in their home and around them? And that kind of defines, what goes on when they are older, when they go into the workplace. So women are also really guilty of sometimes doing the wrong thing. Even things like stereotyping when it comes to, you know, make the pink clothes for the girl, the pink cake for the girl, the blue cake for the boy, right? Give the Barbie dolls to the girls, give the Lego and whatever else to the boys. Parents unconsciously do all this and more, and they don't think it's wrong. They do it because their grandmother did it, their mother did it, they do it, and so on. And of course, the son in the house, when he gets married, he doesn't know any different, right? He will do the same thing. When that son goes into the workplace, becomes a boss, sees the women, he would treat them like, we make the decisions, you do the work, you know, because you're one notch lower than us, because he doesn't know any different, because he hasn't learnt it, right? So that's a piece of which, I think piece of the puzzle that I would like to talk about is really to, and that's where I said my husband's great, my mother-in-law's brought up my husband well, in the sense she's never left room for it. By the way, she's Indian, married to a Sri Lankan, though, so she's never left room for that. To her, everyone is equal, everything's equal, and you know how it is. Sometimes the mums are the bosses of the house, right? So if you're the boss of the house, well, what she says goes, and then, you know, why can't she be the boss in the workplace and anywhere else too, right? So she's always made sure that they know the balance, that the sons have learnt balance, and the daughters have never been said like, oh, just listen to whatever he says, no matter what, he's the husband, that's how it has to be. No. So, you know, in some families, you find that balance, you find the equality, and then I think life becomes so much more different and easier.
I think that answers the question where the role definitely comes to the mother, right, in bringing up the next generation. Dara, you have a different...
Yeah, people are thinking about your question. So you think it's only the mother that needs to do that? No. I think there's a responsibility on both to create that culture in the home, sharing work, responsibilities. I went to my son's school one day, and she was telling me about, she started telling me, now we have to stand in a queue to meet the teacher, right? So now she started this long lecture, Ammala me homework balanna one arakada mekada. I couldn't listen to this too long, so I said, Miss me ammalata විතරද ඔය වගකීම තියෙන්නේ? තාත්තලට නැද්ද? එහෙනම් තාත්තගේ මේ කාර්යභාරය මොකද්ද? She quickly changed her. Now this whole line of parents must have thought this mother is so garrulous. But she changed, I hope she changed her attitude. It's the same that you're having. You expect your mother only to do that. No, it's the responsibility of both.
Yeah, I agree. I think this becomes a question where who came first, whether the hen or chicken or the egg. Because you might say, okay, the father has come from a mother, like your mother-in-law has to be blamed at one point. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think we had another raise of hand from a back row. Do we have another question from the audience? I think we have room. We are in a restricted time field, but we can accommodate one more question if we have any. No? Yeah, seems like there are no more questions. So,
don't forget to pick who can ask the next question.
Do you want to pick one? I know. All right, bringing this, because time is a restriction right now for us, so bringing the panel discussion to a closing, I would like to get a one-sentence advice from each of the panelists here, an advice for the future women who are aspiring or seeking to fulfill their careers while fulfilling their roles as a family member or family role. I would start with Dara.
Yeah, so what I would say is you make your choices, you have your options, you make your decisions, and so you decide whether you want to get married. You decide if you want to get married, get married, and then you decide if you want to have children. You decide whether you want to have a career, and you decide the priorities. If any man tells you not to pursue a career, don't marry him. Don't ever marry a man who decides for you, because that is a terrible thing, situation to be in. If you decide that, that's fine, but don't think that you should never surrender that choice to somebody else. And look at the options you have, and you decide on everything that matters to you, and take those decisions after consulting wise people. Don't consult people who are around you only. Pick your wise men and women and take your decisions accordingly.
That's a very
But consultation is always good. Communicate effectively, that's very, very important in life, whether it is at home or office. So that's it.
Yeah, pretty inspiring. Sandra?
So I think don't compare yourself with someone else. Your journey is unique to you, and others' journeys are theirs. And a good example is, when did Biden become president as opposed to Obama, right? So the pinnacle of success may come early, may come later. Or Mahathir, right, at 92, I believe, right, back being president. So you have your journey, and it can never be compared with anyone else. And if you start comparing yourself with anyone else, you're going to be unhappy, right? You have to own yourself, you have to own your journey. And when you own your journey and do things that are good for yourself, your family, those around you, you find your happy place, you find contentment and gratitude in life. And I think that's what's most important in life. There's no point having everything in life if you are unhappy, right? So, yeah, that's just my advice.
Oh, okay. Shehara?
I would say find what you're passionate about, because when you're passionate and you love what you do, you won't feel you're working even for a day. And more than anything, find your purpose, your why you're doing this. Because on days that you feel like giving up or just throwing in that towel, it's your why that will make you get up the next day, dress up and go back. So finding that purpose is really important, because in the end of the day, that's what will take us through the tough times.
Wow. Bhavna?
Mine would be treat problems as guidelines rather than stop signs. So every time you come across a barrier or just an issue that you can't move past, find a way around it, or find the constructive learning from it. And in my experience, that does wonders for your personal development as well as career path, ultimately.
Wow, amazing. I think we have spoken a lot about their journeys, the challenges, and how they balance their work life and also with families. And we got to know a little bit more than we usually know them, right? Just beyond the titles. And this is amazing. This conversation had been amazing. And as a moderator, I would like to say we have achieved the objectives of the Wonder Women initiative by Sampath Bank through this fireside chat, the very first initiative of the whole project. So thank you so much for the panelists who have been a part of this. First of all, Ms. Dara Vijay Tilaka, thank you so much for joining with us. And Sandra De Soisa, thank you so much for joining with us. Shehara De Silva, thank you. And also Bhavna Dadlani Jayawardena. Thank you so much to the panelists. This has been great. I hope you all enjoyed. Yes. Yeah? It has been an absolute pleasure of mine to be the moderator today and moderate this whole panel discussion. I think before we wind up, let's first give a good round of applause to all the Wonder Women out there, along with all, let's give a good round of applause to everyone who has been listening. And thank you. Let's also not forget about the men. As women, we believe, in our stories, in their stories rather, they had men included. And this is what we're talking about. We're not going to be a woman who says, we don't need men. I don't think we're going to be that, right? We've all spoken about men. So let's give a good round of applause to all the men who make us important. Thank you so much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you overall for being a part of this. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you for being a lovely audience. Now I would like to hand over the controls back to the MC. Thank you. Who would like to take a seat?
Thank you very much, Ashinsini. I request the panelists to be on stage for a little while longer. Thank you for sharing your experience to light the fire of hope in all women and to know that reaching the top is possible. So I would like to quote a poet, Muriel Strode, said, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a mark." Now, to go where there is no path requires strength, intelligence, fearlessness, and the ability to say no to a lot of things and not to take no for an answer for a lot of things. And these extraordinary ladies who shared their stories today have exactly done that. They have taken that path and they have created history. So they not only achieved greatness for themselves, right? Because they have given hope and they have opened up paths for tens and thousands to follow and to go reach the stars. So thank you very much, and I think that's the biggest achievement of all that we have got today. Thank you, ladies. And to appreciate these amazing leaders, let me now invite another exemplary trailblazing leader, none other than Mr. Nanda Fernando, our Managing Director of Sampath Bank, to hand over the tokens of appreciation to our beloved panelists. Mr. Fernando, please, we invite you on stage. Ms. Dara Vijaythilaka, the token of appreciation is for you. Ms. Sandra De Souza. Ms. Shehara De Silva. Ms. Bhavna Dadlani Jayawardena. And last but not the least, to our moderator, Ms. Ashansini Veerasinghe. Thank you very much, Mr. Fernando, and thank you, ladies, for this insightful night. So creating such an insightful and an amazing night is not an easy task. So hats off to our marketing team on a wonderful initiative that we have witnessed today. Definitely a round of applause to our marketing team. Now let me invite another inspirational leader who has created a little bit of history at Sampath Bank. Well, a personality that we all look up to, Mrs. Ayodhya Idavela Pereira, Senior Deputy General Manager, Corporate Banking of Sampath Bank, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Mr. Nanda Fernando, Managing Director, Mr. Vajrakula Tilaka, Mrs. Aroshina Nakkara, Ms. Keshini Jayawardena, and Mr. Vinod Hydramani, Directors of Sampath Bank, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of Sampath Bank and the entire organizing committee of Wonder Women Initiative, I would like to thank the speakers today for gracing this occasion amidst your busy schedules and sharing with us your experience and opinion. A big thank you to Mrs. Dara Vijaythilaka, our former Deputy Chairperson, for sharing her experience and expertise related especially to work-life balance. I would also like to thank and appreciate our other panelists, Ms. Sandra De Souza, Group Chief Customer Officer, Dialog Asiata, Ms. Shehara De Silva, Managing Director, McLaren's Group, and Ms. Bhavna Dadlani Jawardana, General Manager, Uber, for sharing their valuable opinion as women leaders in their respective industries amidst various challenges. We are grateful to all of you for sacrificing your valuable time and being here with us today, for the lovely thoughts you delivered to encourage future women leaders. I especially would like to express our sincere thanks to our media partners for being here and always giving us an excellent coverage of all our initiatives. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the organizing committee of this event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling months ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues of Sampath Bank who knows what they're doing and are results-oriented. Once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank the panelists, the speakers today, for sharing your experience, and also to the media partners. We thank you for being here with us this evening. It's been a great pleasure. Let us now enjoy dinner and drinks, and I wish a very happy Women's Day to all the Wonder Women in advance. Thank you.
So as we have reached the end of this wonderful night, the stories shared by our trailblazing ladies on the Wonder Women's Initiative platform today is the biggest gift to women, to dream bigger and reach higher. This noteworthy initiative will not end here today, as this will continue to carry out its campaign with different projects with the goal of empowering women and raising awareness with the hopes of a future brighter than today for all women. With that, let me conclude the Wonder Woman Initiative of Sampath Bank tonight, while thanking our panelists for their valuable time and invaluable knowledge imparted today. We wish all the women around the globe a very happy Women's Day. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for gracing us with your presence today and for being part of an initiative that will sure create a change and better tomorrow for all women. I invite all gathered here to stay with us and enjoy the food and the drinks. So thank you for a wonderful night. Have a great evening. Stay safe, good night, and have a safe journey back home.